Hello, friends, and welcome back to Malicious Compliance Stories. Sounds like a typical restaurant job. Most of the employees are total brats. Any competent, professional person leaves. Yes, that's what our first story is about. Sorry if that sounded rude. But before we begin, don't forget to subscribe to our channel if you're new here and turn on notifications so you don't miss a new video every single day. Here we go. The story of why my town doesn't have a popular pizza chain restaurant anymore. When I was 17, I was hired on at a popular chain pizza restaurant. Very quickly, it became apparent the place was being run into the ground. We had a GM and 2 assistant managers. Within about 3 months of me being hired, both of the AMs were let go. One was caught dealing illegal stuff out the back door, and the other was an alkie that would just skip shifts. I was inexplicably promoted to fill one of the AM shifts, which was nuts. I was 17 and they gave me keys to the restaurant. After the 2 AMs were gone, things went further downhill. The GM would regularly pass out beers to the closing staff, even though most of us were underage. Seemed like a lot of fun to teenager me, so I went with it. The more comfortable the AM got with me and some of the other new hires, the weirder it got. GM was once convinced that her husband was cheating, so she would send our drivers to go snoop around her house. One particular night during closing, I was doing the books and I hear a loud bang come from our walk-in freezer. I leapt up and tore the door open thinking someone had fallen, but there was nothing in there. While I was holding the door looking in, I hear another bang and a few racks of pizzas launch from the wall onto the floor. The back door was right next to the freezer, so I throw that open and see GM's husband is ramming his car into our walk-in freezer. GM comes flying outside, screaming at him, and they proceed to get into a huge argument over whether or not she's sleeping with delivery driver Nan. So someone had enough of shenanigans and corporate came down for a surprise visit. GM was let go, and as I was the only AM left, I became interim GM for the store. I opened and closed the restaurant every day for about 3 weeks. In that time, we couldn't hire anyone additional, so everyone was working FT+. Corporate found a new GM and another AM. The new GM immediately hired on both of her kids and a few friends. Because of all the new hires, my staff was now getting hardly any hours. I was exhausted and done dealing with that place, so I laid into her and told her she couldn't take my people's livelihood like that. It was obvious she wasn't going to back down, so I handed her my keys and walked. With me leaving, there was nobody to train the new GM, AM, on how to close the books, order supplies, etc. Pooched. Later that day, one of our drivers called me and told me that after hearing I'd quit, 2 drivers and 1 server also walked off the job. The place closed down 4 months later. On a side note, I really liked the new AM they hired, so on her shifts, I would sneak in the back door and train her on how to do the books, making her look really good, and the GM left to fend for herself. I'm honestly surprised that after that, it still managed to stay open for another 4 months. And our second story. Our frequent Karen at my work. I work at a fun center, and we have this one frequent customer that happens to be a Karen. She comes to my work every week, lets her son run wild, breaking our games while she sits in the cafe drinking. The boy gets worse and worse every week, climbing on equipment and into games, and we take him to Karen, constantly threatening to ban them from the facility if she can't get him under control. She knows we fired our manager, so there isn't anyone to actually do it. Well, this is what happened the first week after I was promoted to manager. Kids found inside our Down the Clown game, and I take him to Karen. Me. Ma'am, we have this problem with your son every week. Keep him out of our games, or I'll have the staff start refusing your service. Karen. Yeah, sure, he's fine. Tells the boy something in a language I don't speak. 10 minutes later, he's in skee ball and has all the balls jammed up. I'm busy giving another entitled customer a refund and have one of my staff take him and inform her this is the last warning. Karen comes to front desk. I've come here every week for over a year. Why all of a sudden are you so mean to my son and I? Me. Ma'am, this has been an ongoing problem since I started working here 8 months ago. The last 5 games I've had to fix were because your son climbed into them. Karen huffs. Whatever, my son's not that wild. As soon as I'm done with my drink, we'll leave, and I won't be coming back. Yells at son in the other language again. Less than 5 minutes pass, and I have one staff member just watching the boy as well as myself. We both turn away for only seconds and turn back to find him inside the cage on our up and away game. We still have no clue how he did it. Staff's going crazy, telling me to get the keys. Customers are laughing like crazy. I say no, leave him in there, and start heading over to Karen's table. Me, ma'am, will you gather your stuff and follow me, please? Karen, you haven't harassed me enough today? What's your problem? Me, just follow me. Karen, if you had a manager, I'd be asking for him now. You can't treat your customers like this. You don't have the authority to order me around. Me, actually, as of Monday, I'm the new manager, and I have something you need to see. Karen gets up, following me, ranting in the other language. Once we get in view of her son, she gasps, "How dare you put my son in there like an animal?" Me, he put himself in there. This is what my staff has been dealing with for months. I'm going to unlock the cage. I need you to remove him and leave. Karen grabs her son, stomps out the door, yelling in the other language. This was 3 weeks ago. We thought we were done with her, but she came back 2 days ago. The owner was in the facility and didn't like me turning away a frequent customer and made me let them in. He walked into the cafe with her apologizing to her. First thing he does is climb into one of our basketball games, snapping the $280 card reader off the face of it. So I walked back to the cafe, asked them both to follow me, pointed at the boy and the broken card reader and said, "This is why I kicked them out." Then I went back to my post at the front desk and watched the owner escort them both out the door. And our last story. If you don't agree with me, leave right now. In June of 2021, I joined a tech startup, last mile grocery and food delivery app, as a financial controller. I was told my task is to bring the gross profits into black within a year and before next round of investment and fundraising. The senior team comprised of me, Group CFO, COO, and head of grocery. The CEO was stationed outside in another country. The CEO comes to the country within a month of my joining but does not bother to meet me. I say, "Okay, no problem. Keep your head down and do what you're tasked with." Within 2 months, I have the grips on operations and financials and have laid down my plan with Group CFO, and he agrees to it. I make some changes in my team, and I get to work on fixing things. During October, one of our competitors raises $85 million in investment, and our CEO is irked. He comes again and starts an impromptu investment round. The conditions are better than before, so we get an offer of $50 million, because our overall plan was a lot smaller and realistic than our competitor. The CEO rejects the offer. He needs an offer of at least $100 million to beat the competitor. Luckily, we get offered $200 million, but the CEO refuses, citing this is greater than what I need, and goes back without accepting anything. Come February, Group CFO suddenly quits. But I knew he quit since our funds were depleting rapidly and the economic conditions in the country and globally were getting worse. I have an emergency meeting with COO and grocery head and tell them that we need to rationalize our expenses further, and this is the plan, according to which we'll be profitable by June 2022. They agree to it, and I get to work with my team. The CEO again does not talk to me, and the CFO post remains vacant despite me being next in line and eligible for it. Come March 2022, my plan's on track, and we're expecting profitability a month earlier in May 2022. I plan to take a week-long vacation and travel abroad with my spouse. On the third day of vacation, I get a text from COO that I need to come back as something has happened. I tell him I'll come back as planned and not to worry. I come back and find out that the supply chain team made an error and bought inventory $30 million more than planned for the festive season coming up in May. In my absence, the grocery head gave the go-ahead without consulting me, and the error was only identified once the vendor started fulfilling the order. This has shook our overall plan, and our cash funds are at bottom. Mr. CEO comes to know about this. I was the one to inform him, and he immediately comes down and started literally abusing me and other members of the team verbally. This is the first ever face-to-face meeting with me. I was quite taken aback by his rudeness and hurt as he put all the blame on me, saying I am the CFO, when I was never appointed as such, so no payments or purchases were approved by me. They were being approved by COO, head of grocery. This verbal abuse goes on for about a week, during which I had broken down twice in front of my wife, as I'd never faced such horse crap before in my career, and I had worked really hard to bring the company where it was at that point. The CEO warns us that whoever's found guilty of negligence will be fired on the spot. Okay, bud. I prepared detailed documents pointing out my plan and who approved the extra purchase and how I was consulted only after the error had occurred. I even prepared a plan to sell the excess inventory and bring the money back in the fold. I try to reach him to explain, but he brushes me off every time, saying, "You cannot be right." After 7 days, the CEO calls us in the office on a weekend. I arrive and head of grocery is there. They're arguing and it's getting heated up. It gets so heated that the head of grocery shouts back and leaves, citing that he quits. As soon as he leaves, the CEO pounded his fist on the table and shouted, "If you don't agree with me, leave right now. Only I know how to run this company, and if you think I cannot work without you, think again." The moment I heard these words spewing out of his mouth, I switched to autopilot. I type in my resignation email right then, get up, and say to him, "Please check your email. My notice starts now." I leave the building before he could respond. Immediately, I call up one of my ex-boss/mentor and tell him I need to meet him. We meet. Within a week, we plan to start our own consultancy firm, and 6 months from then, our firm has started to grow. We're working on our startup, setting up another business, and managing top-tier clients. Then I get a message from that CEO through COO after a few months of my leaving. "Hey, we need your help managing the books and finances. Our position's really bad." I simply say, the CEO won't agree with what I have to do to fix the company, and I don't work with clients who don't agree with me. I just wonder how that CEO got to that position with his attitude and mindset. Hey guys, thank you all for watching the video. I'll see you in the next one.